Okay, now we are studying simultaneous interpretation, so you can choose your the language on the globe showing on the bottom of the screen. Okay. Now I would like to introduce two important representatives from OPWDD, Patricia Downs, OPWDD Director of a Housing Program, and Cindy Small-Kakula, Statewide Coordinator of Certified Residential Opportunities, CRO Program.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us to have this information shared with you. My name is Patricia Downs. I'm the Director of Housing Programs here at OPWDD. Later in the presentation, I'll be joined by my colleague, Cindy Smolkukla, who will discuss the certified residential opportunities and how that is handled through OPWDD's service system. Before we move into new material, I just wanted to take a few minutes and review what we talked about at the session a couple of weeks ago. This information is being shared on CEDA's website and also OPWDD's website. More information about how to access those will be available at the end of this presentation. After reviewing the information from last session, I'll speak a little bit about how to find affordable housing and what exactly affordable housing is. And then Cindy will discuss with you the Certified Residential Opportunities process and how the level of need is designated through the system. Okay, we'll go over the types of housing very briefly to reset what the differences are between non-certified housing in the community and certified housing. During the last session, we spoke extensively around shared living and how your loved ones can develop a housing situation where they can share their lives with another person, and that can be funded through the OPWDD system. How to plan for a change in housing, and I'm just reminding everyone the importance of spending quite a bit of time in advance to develop a housing opportunity for someone, to make sure that everything is in place as it needs to be so that they can be successful when your loved one moves into a new location and lives independently in the community. Just always make sure to give lots of time. It takes longer than you would have anticipated to prepare all the different pieces that are needed for someone to live independently. I also discussed the housing subsidy, the OPWDD housing subsidy, and how we can help pay for rent, and also transition stipends that may be available for people who are moving into a new housing arrangement for the first time. Okay. Okay, we are now on slide 6. Again, this is a very high level slide to talk about the different types of housing that are available under the OPWDD service system, just so that everyone is on the same page. The last presentation a couple of weeks ago was regarding non-certified housing, which is really people living in the community, finding housing and living in an arrangement that is not controlled by a provider. So they're very much living independently in the community. It is not a one-size-fits-all approach. It's very specific to a person, and all the different pieces need to be addressed for a person to live independently and be successful in their housing arrangement when they moved out. Non-certified housing is really individual specific, and it takes into account a person's needs, interests, and preferences. And then there is also a piece that is based on what a person can afford, and we'll talk a little bit more about that today. Certified housing is what Cindy is going to discuss later in the program, and that is typically housing that is controlled by a provider. They provide supports, and it's typically for a person who needs a higher level of support, typically 24 hours of supports, although that's not always the case. There is a process established for determining whether or not a person is eligible for that higher level of support. And that is the CROW process. So very different types of housing that is available. And, OPWDD is here to work with people to figure out what the best options are. We also have providers in the field who work in these different arenas and can help folks. The care manager is usually the first place that families and the people that they love who are receiving OPWDD supports can get more information about housing options and kind of work through any process for requesting housing options. Okay, we are now on slide 8. Affordable housing is an important part of the OPWDD service system because it's incredibly important that people with limited resources are able to access housing that is paid for through a housing subsidy or is affordable to their family if they're still living with their family, because you don't want to be spending so many resources for housing that you don't have funds available to put food on the table, to have activities that you enjoy, all of these other pieces that make a successful life. I spoke about the housing subsidy previously. Just as a reminder, OPWDD has a housing subsidy that is set currently at the same level as Section 8, which means that some housing arrangements will not be affordable under the housing subsidy. So we're going to talk a little bit today about affordable housing and how to find it. Affordable housing is a general term which indicates that the rent is affordable to a person based on their income level. Typically, affordable housing is built using government dollars. That can be local money, it can be money coming from the state and sometimes coming from the federal government. And basically, by putting money into the project to develop the housing in the first instance, the exchange is that the rent levels remain low for a long period of time so that people can afford to live there. Affordable housing is a larger band, typically rental housing for eligible low-income families. Sometimes the units are designated for elderly people, sometimes for people with disabilities, and sometimes other population categories. And then typically there will be a large percentage of the units that are being developed that are available for people who have a low income specifically. Okay, we are now on slide 9. OPWDD funds affordable housing as well as the affordable housing that's available through other funding streams. Our program to build affordable housing is called the Integrated Supportive Housing Program, or ISH. We provide capital funding under the program to build non-certified apartments for folks who are OPWDD eligible and can access the OPWDD housing subsidy. The rents are affordable under the OPWDD housing subsidy. So what that means is that the person living there who's being supported through OPWDD only pays 30% of their income or resources, their benefits, whatever income they have, towards their housing costs. And OPWDD subsidizes the remaining amount up to the rent level. And therefore it is affordable for folks. To develop these apartments, OPWDD works with one of our approved providers to provide housing-related supports for the people who live in the OPWDD units. And they partner with a developer to build the apartments. Projects that are opened will be contained within the New York Housing Search webpage, which is identified on the resource handout that you should also have received. So you can search for apartments through there. The list of apartments is also available. The list of apartment projects and where they're located city-wise are available on OPWDD's website as well. So OPWDD has over 800 units funded and open through this program across the state. And every year we seek to add to the number of units that are available. There are a large number of units generally available in New York City, or I should say funded in New York City. And occasionally they do become available. Typically, you would need to be put on a wait list for the OPWDD apartments after the initial availability is filled up. So again, that whole planning process that we talked about a couple of weeks ago is very important in that it can take a while for affordable housing to become available for people. So you really need to be planning ahead of time and putting applications into different locations ahead of time, because there is very often a wait list. Occasionally, you may hear about another program called the Empire State Supportive Housing Initiative, or ESHI. And OPWDD is a participating state agency in this program where we develop housing for people who are homeless. And that is a very specific program that is available for a highly vulnerable population. And the funding can be made available to a provider to help support people who are homeless move into permanent housing. Referrals for those apartments, when they become available, are all handled through the OPWDD regional office. The provider may send referrals over to OPWDD, but because of the nature of the program, OPWDD has to specifically approve the folks who are eligible for those apartments to be sure that they meet the requirement of the ESHI program. Okay, we are now on slide 11. Now, this is usually the question that we receive from families and also care managers. How do we find housing for people that is affordable? There are a number of links that we included in the resources that we shared as part of this presentation. So you can search different locations. It is a little bit of effort, we do understand, and affordable housing is very limited in its availability. So again, you need to plan well in advance to find housing for your loved one if you're looking to have affordable housing for them. Locally, you can usually contact a HUD, that's Housing and Urban Development, that's a federal program, Public Housing Administrator. Usually those are public housing authorities who have affordable housing that's built in a community, and very often people are aware of those particular housing developments. You can contact the administrator for that development to see if there's anything available. The New York State HCR rental housing page, again, that is also noted on the handout that we gave you. That lists statewide what's available. You can search by county for anything that is available. And also they run the New York Housing Search page, which is also available as a link. And information is available on what apartments might be available in a given location. Very often, you will have to be on a wait list for different types of affordable housing because there's a very high demand and there's a very limited group of housing that is available for people. So you definitely want to be looking for housing well in advance, placing yourself or your loved one on the housing wait lists. Sometimes if it's a new program, new apartment complex that's being rented up, there is often a lottery, it's called. I am led to understand that in New York City specifically, you're more likely to win the money lottery that the state runs than the housing lottery for affordable housing. So that's how limited affordable housing can be. So again, you want to plan well in advance so that you can move forward when you or your loved one is ready to move. So it's very important to plan these types of things because they can take time. In addition to these kind of statewide websites that have information, you can independently search for local housing based on where you're living. New York City has its own affordable housing page for NYCHA housing that might be available. Other counties like upstate New York, Monroe is where Rochester is. They have a housing collaborative site. Westchester has a housing resource guide. So different places may have information available. Out on Long Island, the counties may also run lists of information on affordable housing as well. So you can do a more localized search to look for that type of information. But you definitely want, again, to start the search early because it can take a while before an apartment becomes available. So again, the information, we have a number of links on our resource guide that can be helpful in finding housing for folks, but plan in advance. And, if you have questions, you're welcome to submit them to us. At this time, I am going to turn over the presentation to my colleague Cindy, who is going to talk about the certified residential opportunities in the OPWDD service system. So we're moving to slide 14.
Hello, everyone. My name is Cindy Smokukla, and I am the statewide coordinator for certified residential opportunities. Thank you guys so much for letting us take your time and educate you on our services that we provide. Today, what I'm going to do is do a very brief overview of what certified residential opportunity is, go over the 3 types of services under that title that we have, and go through a little bit of how to apply for those services and ultimately how a person with a developmental disability and or intellectual disability gets matched with a residential provider. So first, let me define what a certified residential opportunity is. It is a home that is licensed by OPWDD, and the provider that runs the home must follow all the rules set by OPWDD. It is a shared home for adults, typically adults, and those adults have an intellectual and or developmental disability. Staff is there to help people live a safe, happy, fulfilled life. With the help of a care manager, a person family advocate must submit a certified residential referral to be considered for this level of supports. We will now review the general types of certified settings. We will start with a certified home that supports a person that requires a lesser amount of care, and then go to settings that increase the level of support, and end with reviewing certified homes that provide assistance 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Our first type of certified residential opportunity is called a supportive individualized residential alternative. For short, an IRA, a supportive IRA. This is a home for someone that does not need a lot of help. Staff will assist on an as-needed basis. Maybe staff might help a person complete basic household cleaning. Maybe a staff person could help a person with basic money management, maybe cooking simple meals, going to the grocery store. Staff basically provide services on an as-needed basis. This is to say that a staff person is not on the premise 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The next level of support of a certified residential opportunity is family care. A family care home is for a person with a developmental disability and/or intellectual disability that is somewhat independent. This person becomes a value member of a family household. The family care provider might help a person with general home chores, like maybe doing laundry, cooking some meals, basic money management. But basically, the person with the developmental disability becomes a member of that family. And that family shares their social life and their living life with that individual. The family care provider would not always be around to supervise an individual, so that person would need to be able to be somewhat independent. The last type of certified residence that we will review today is a supervised individualized residential alternative, a supervised IRA for short. Supervised IRAs are homes for someone who needs help every day. This is a home that provides a lot more supervision that you would get from the other two levels of support, the family care home or the supportive individualized residential alternative. In a supervised IRA, staff will teach and/or assist a person as needed. Staff could help a person eat meals. They could help a person shower or get dressed. They can also help teach a person how to cook meals, how to clean their house, how to clean their room, how to do laundry, how to take a bus. In a supervised IRA, staff is present 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So we just reviewed the 3 types of certified residential opportunity. These settings are more restrictive than other residential opportunities. As such, we ask the care managers to help individuals, their families, their advocates, to look into and try support services in the community before requesting services in a certified residential opportunity. Certified residential opportunities should be an option that is looked into after every other option appears to not be the right fit, the right level of support for an individual. Care managers should be the people helping individuals and their families connect with community services to see if those other services can help a person live in the most integrated setting as possible. So I speak of other community support services. Here are some examples, definitely not all the examples, but some of the examples of those types of supports. So the care manager may be able or should be able to link a person to possible rehabilitative services, supportive employment, behavioral management supports, home health aides. These are just a few type of services that might be enough to support a person to live in the least restrictive environment, to live in a community that has homes and living situations that are not certified. Care managers will be able to assist in obtaining these types of services. So what's the next step for a person that has tried those other services? If those services are not helping a person to live a happy, safe life in the community, then an application for a certified residential opportunity can be submitted. The care manager will fill out a referral form. They should have valuable input from the person themselves, from their family, from their advocate. The care manager must gather all the information from the individual, from the family, before submitting the referral form. Supportive documents that I'm talking about should be a current medical exam, a current life plan, a current psychological report that reflects the person's current functioning level, and any other document that would provide a background on the person, their abilities, and their needs. Documents such as maybe a behavioral support plan, a risk assessment, a speech and language report, an individual education plan, all the documents that once or are now still current in that person's life. This whole referral packet will be sent to the housing unit in the person's home region. The state is broken up into 5 regions. OPWDD has broken up the state in 5 different regions. We have Region 1 that covers Western New York and the Finger Lakes. Region 2 covers areas in the Broome County area, Central New York, the Sunmount area. Region 3 covers Capital District, the Hudson Valley region, the Taconic region. Region 4 is our downstate region. It covers the boroughs of Brooklyn, Staten Island, Queens, the Bronx, Manhattan. And then Region 5 is the Long Island region. So what happens after the referral packet is received by OPWDD's certified housing team? Well, they will review all the documentation that was submitted, and they will make a determination if the person needs a certified residential level of care. If it is so, if the team feels that the person needs that level of support, a level of need category will be assigned to that individual. The level of need category is the way that OPWDD prioritizes the urgency of a person's situation. There are 3 levels of need: emergency need, substantial need, current need. So with an emergency need, just for an example, a person might be homeless, or they might be in imminent risk of their safety, or they could be discharging from hospital. Substantial need. A person has an increasing risk of having no permanent place to live. Or they could be transitioning from a school, from a residential school or a nursing home. Current need means that the person is in need of residential placement and is actively seeking an opportunity. So I stress the word actively seeking an opportunity. Matching a person and their needs and their preferences for certified residence, it takes some time. It doesn't happen overnight. However, I understand future planning, but if a person isn't actively ready to accept an opportunity, then I would ask everybody to hold off in submitting a referral. If you're future planning and you're not ready to move into a certified residential opportunity for another 2 to 5 years, hold off on submitting that referral. You have to actively be ready to accept an opportunity. So after the other services have been tried, those aren't helping, the person isn't living a safe, happy life, the referral is submitted, it's accepted, a designation level is assigned, that is when we start looking, the housing team starts looking for available and appropriate supports. The matching process. So what they do, what the residential housing team does is they look for a certified residential provider that has a vacancy. They match that vacancy, the supports and the housing profile that provider has with the needs of the person that is looking for an opportunity. And that's how a person gets matched to a residential opportunity. The provider will review, so the certified residential team will share a referral packet with the provider. The provider will review the residential packet and evaluate if their opportunity matches the person's needs. The provider will and might ask to meet the person and their family, to conduct an in-person screening. If a person and the provider themselves feel that the residents can meet the person's needs and preference, then the residential need will be fulfilled. Both the residential provider and the person have the right to say no to each other. So to recap, this slide includes very important things for families and individuals to remember when they're requesting a certified residential opportunity. 1, please work with your care manager. It's very important to seek out assistance and other services before coming to a certified residential opportunity. Once a person does have a need level, make sure the care manager keeps the housing team up to date with any and all changes that are occurring in that person's life. OPWDD does not have emergency housing. So when you're entering into the process of looking for a certified residence, Please be aware that it is a very lengthy time process. And I hope this information was helpful to you. We have the Housing Initiative email address, as well as the certified residential opportunity email address. You're more than welcome to send any follow-up questions, concerns to those two entities, and we will get back to you as soon as possible.
Thank you, Cindy. I believe Dr. Bay is also helping us to collect questions and to provide information where appropriate. So I'll turn the meeting back over to her so she can provide any additional information and comments.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Cindy and Patricia. It was very informative for our family network. As we announced at the beginning of the session, we will send out an email asking your questions. We are currently compiling all questions, and we are about to send them to OPWDD. As soon as we receive the answers from OPWDD, we will share the entire questions answers with everyone. You can also download the presentation, the word glossary, which is translated into Korean and Chinese, and the resource list from our website, www.cdainfo.com, under the resource menu. The recordings of the two sessions, first session on June 16, and today's session, June 30th session, will be posted in our website after July 4th. Thank you, everyone, and you have a wonderful weekend.